Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the Southern Hemisphere's biggest Star Wars fan and a man wearing a cap that he wasn't actually sure what brand it was when he put it on, but we've established that it's got a rhino on it. Johnny and Sambo, how are we?
Good.
Good. Very good. You can see how into fashion I am, that I would not even have read the front of the cap before I put it on my head. I could be walking around with a MAGA cap or something. I wouldn't even know. Sounds like a good scene from a Steve Carell movie or something. Or maybe Arrested Development, bit of a Tobias thing to be walking around. He just likes the hat because it fits his head. And it's something extremely offensive. Yeah.
It's bold. It's red with white lettering.
Yeah, maybe it's more Seinfeld. Maybe it's a Seinfeld one.
It would just be called The Hat. There probably is a Seinfeld episode called The Hat.
Probably.
At one point, I did think about naming our episodes instead of going like, AFLW Cats v Eagles round 10 recap. I did think about naming them just like something random, some random expression that we used in the pod or whatever, but never went down that track. Maybe another time.
Okay.
That's right. No, the last one would have been Riding the Cold Hand. That's what it would have been. All right, on tonight's episode of the Chaps, we have the AFLW Cats v Eagles round 10 recap. No clever names, just the. We're going to get into all that as Geelong locked up. Another impressive win. It's been a weird season. It's been a season with disappointments in it, but we've had a lot to celebrate the last couple of weeks, and really the last month. There's been some nice stuff happening outside of a agonizing loss to the Tigers. So we're going to get into all of that. And then we're going to keep yakking for another 10 or 15 minutes over on our Patreon part of the show. So if you want to get access to the extended part of tonight's episode, rock on over to Patreon. Sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon, and you get access to extended versions of our show, VFL men's and women's coverage during the season, Wednesday news wraps, with Ben, bunch of other stuff as well. So let's jump in, chaps. First off, with a big thank you, of course, to our media network sponsor,
Cyril Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist, established in Geelong since 1915. Visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That's Cook with an E. Give them a call on 035 222 2244 or mention the Hoops Crew to get yourself 20% off your next in-store purchase when you visit them at Shop 12, 11 Leather Street in Breakwater.
Love when I accidentally click the automated ad read button.
I didn't know.
I have one.
The AI had come in. The AI had come in and taken over the show.
Obviously, Colin was just that oblivious to what he's doing. He was just hitting random buttons, trying to bring up the graphics and hit the graphics and the voiceover. Like, terrible.
That's all right, though, because we can... AI Jake did a terrific job there. It's not even AI Jake. That's me. That was me for an hour trying to get the ad read. We discussed we need, we want the organic ones that I do in real time. We also would be handy to have a 30-second one that we can play, during post-game live or whatever. That was the 30-second one that took me like an hour and a half to try and get down to 30 seconds. So yes, make sure you're going over and support our media network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. The info, of course, in that one. Chaps, let's get into the recap here because there's a lot to talk about, and we're on a a pitch count tonight. So we've got to get into it. Going to start quickly with a bit of a match recap of how the game unfolded. It was Geelong 2 straight 12 to 1-3-9 in the first quarter. The Cats hitting the board early. 5 minutes in, it was Aisling Maloney, the first of many on the evening. The Eagles responded, a behind to Ella Roberts, a goal to Ella Roberts. The Cats, a goal to Michaela Bowen, a former Eagle. West Coast had 2 chances to narrow the gap, but they missed both of them. Amy Franklin kicking a behind and another behind. Cats led 12-9 at the break. They kicked the first 2 goals of the second quarter. It was Aisling Maloney, and you guessed it, Aisling Maloney, to blow the margin out to sort of 2.5 goals, but the Eagles responded. Goals to Kelly Gibson and Verity Simmons, and a behind to Michaela Weston right before halftime meant Geelong claimed just a 2-point lead at the major break, 24-22. But from there, chaps, after the Eagles looked like they jammed the door open, the Cats, they kicked the Eagles' little claw out and they shoved that door closed in their face. It was goals to Aisling Maloney, 1 to Jackie Parry. Those were the only 2 majors of the third quarter as Geelong took a 6-1, 37-3-5, 23 lead at the 3-quarter time break. And they went on with the business in the final term, holding West Coast scoreless in the final quarter, adding goals to Aisling Maloney, and Aisling Maloney again, she kicked 6 for the afternoon, just 1 shy of the AFLW record of 7 in a game. Kate Sermon put the icing on a very lovely Western Coast cake with a goal late. Kate Sermon, a lovely snap. Geelong run out 9-2-56 to 3-5-23 winners. Johnny, coming to you first for your thoughts on what was a pretty wonderful win over in the West.
Yeah, wonderful win. Absolutely. Enjoyed the entire game watching it. I was a bit nervous going into half time, the way the Cats were playing. It sort of felt like we'd gone back into some bad habits of not locking inside 50 and letting them just transition from defence to their attacking a bit too easily and not putting on a whole heap of pressure. So I was a little bit going, are we gonna do what we're doing early in the year, and that was get off to a really good or play a couple of really good quarters and then let them get back into it and not be able to really wrestle momentum back our way. But credit to the players, they absolutely came out in that third quarter and tore West Coast apart from the start until the end of the last quarter, and it was very glorious to watch them just go about their business and utterly dominate West Coast in that second half. And it was very enjoyable to watch it with myself and Sam at Sam's house with the kids playing with the Lego. And not sure how much of the game you were able to watch live, Sam, but I assume it wasn't a whole lot. But
most of the second half. The first half was pretty patchy.
It was, but yeah, it was a really just an incredible turnaround by the Cats to come out in that second half and just tear them from limb to limb and not let them trouble the scoreboard at all, apart from a point in that second half, or a couple of points in that second half. So yeah, there was a turnaround that I sort of was hoping would happen, but I wasn't fully convinced at halftime. And then to see them just come out and smash them, and led from the front by Aisling Maloney and Georgie Prasparkas. Those two were just inseparable throughout the entire game, and the way they just dominated. And as much as we were saying like a couple of weeks ago, finals were looking pretty much done and dusted, we're still clinging on with a little bit of hope. That hope it's there. It's going to be tough because we've got to play West Coast, not West Coast, play Adelaide Crows, and then Melbourne's got to play bottom last place Collingwood for us to have any chance to get in there. But I tell you what, I was thinking today on the walk with my dogs that if only there was 5 more games in the season, how exciting would these last 5 games be? Except now we've got 1 more game, and it's like, oh, well, that's that. That could have been super exciting for so many teams, so many fans. It could have really boosted the numbers at games, going, oh, this is a must-win game for all these teams. And now we're only getting 1 more really exciting week before finals. So yeah, bit of a bittersweet pill going to playing so well, but also pretty bit of that. We only needed to win one more game, and we could have locked up finals. So it was a really good win, but it still got that little bit of bitter taste in it. Going, if only we could have found this bit of form in one more game for a little bit longer.
Oh,
would have paid off.
I'll be honest. I'm real. Like, I know we've talked about the permutations of like what could happen to put Geelong in. I've kind of already signed off on it in my head. I'm not even dreaming about it. It's kind of like, if it happens, it happens, and that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll go absolutely ballistic if it does. But you just get to a point where you've like, my biggest takeaway from the last couple of weeks has been, it's so good to see that this footy is still there. 2023 wasn't some mirage that happened and it never happens again. Sambo, what were your sort of general takeaways? Like we said, you were putting in some serious Lego analysis in the first half, but across the second half, like what were your sort of thoughts from this performance? You know, a 5-goal win on the road against a team that, you know, a few weeks ago was right in it, competing for finals.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with, sort of on the same page with everything Johnny said. It was quite a euphoric second half, really. I found that it just worked out that way. We also were absolutely battling KO. For at least 3 quarters. Definitely the first 2 quarters were the worst. John and I actually sat down to watch it live, and you were going to join us at halftime. We'd only just started it by the time you got there, Jake, at halftime. So we were watching slightly behind. So this is the opposite of like a free bit of free advertising for KO. This is the opposite. This is some free dragging them through the mud. I've never had more trouble with a streaming app than I have with KO.
It was shocking because game was started at 6. I think we started watching at 7.
Yeah. And I think the quality was operating at like, I don't know. It was. I was gonna say, I don't even think it classed as HD. It was definitely standard def, and it was pausing for a frame every like 10 seconds.
Until the last minute.
The last. I think it was like it started playing, or maybe it was the quality. Maybe it was still pausing. The quality definitely jumped all the way to HD suddenly with like 6 minutes left.
And there was no pause.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
We started watching it at 7 o'clock and finished watching at 1 a.m. It was tremendous.
Yeah, it was yeah. It was well into the Tigers game by the time we'd finished our game. It was a bizarre first sort of half. Bit stagnant, and a lot of my information was coming secondhand from John, because I was on the floor with the Lego. John was filling me in. But yeah, it was quite like I said, euphoric sounds like a really strong word, but that was kind of the feeling of it. Like, there just wasn't much tension. Able to grab a drink, and basically I was lying on the couch actually, which is pretty rare for football. I feel like normally I'm standing or at the edge of my seat, but I was literally just lying with my drink on my stomach, rocked up on my stomach, lying watching it. And it was just great to see, like, it does feel like it's all clicked. And yeah, maybe not consistently. Maybe the first half was a bit rougher, but it did feel like it clicked again. And when that happens, they just feel kind of unbeatable. And like, it's a real. It reminds me a little bit of Ollie Dempsey. You know, when people talked about Ollie Dempsey being the guy that was having the most fun in football. I think we've got a few players like that in the W. Like Michaela Bowen's one. I think she does take it pretty serious, and it can be I think she takes the burden quite seriously. But when things are happening up and around, she just seems to be having so much fun. And the team it just seems to be a real celebration of football, and the way Geelong wants to play football. So yeah, it was great. Probably enjoyed that second half even more than I enjoyed the more 4-quarter performance of the other week.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because it was just like, it was a great example of Geelong just slamming the foot down. in the second half. Like we were just talking about, the second half's the score worm. They kicked one behind in the second half. The Eagles, they went in at halftime 3-4-22. They end the game at 3-5-23. Geelong had 5 goals too. And I think you saw the benefit. Again, we talk about it all the time, like taking your chances, because the Cats, this is the difference, isn't it? When you kick 4 goals straight instead of say 1 goals 3 or 1 goals 5, when the other team makes their dash, they're only catching up to you. They're not running over the top of you, which is, I feel like, casting my memory back, like games against Fremantle, the game against Hawthorn, I feel like there are a few games where, we had all the ascendancy and couldn't nail the door shut. And so then when that charge comes, they go by you by 2 or 3 goals, and then you're playing catch up. But when you've already established that lead, they're just clawing back to even. And I felt like that's the advantage Geelong had, not just this weekend, but last weekend too against the Lions. They had the advantage. And I was impressed too with the way we moved the ball. It's funny, actually, that the stats kind of surprised me. We actually had 30 less touches than the Eagles. It was 227 to 257. We had less marks than them, which stunned me. Not by many, but, still less, 34 to 39. Something that I thought we did well, Johnny, was the efficiency inside 50 in terms of getting the ball where our forwards actually wanted it. We took 8 marks inside 50 to 1. What did you feel about the way the Cats moved the ball, and made and took those opportunities?
Oh yeah, that's completely different from the start of the year to now. They've worked out. The forward line has worked out how each other is working without Chloe Shear there, and they've just started to click really well because you're not seeing them running into each other at all. There was moments where they could have run into each other, but one of them pulled out at the last second to let Ashley Maloney take the mark. I think there was one where Sermon or
Jackie
Parry was going for a mark and just pulled out at the last second, so Ashley Maloney could take a simple chest mark. Early on in the year, Parry may have still gone for that mark and they could have collided and West Coast would have gotten away. But yeah, it's just that clear, precise framework of how to work in around each other and working together. And the midfield kicking inside 50 is absolutely electric. There was moments where they looked inside 50 and then cut it back, going straight into the centre, not bombing it long, but cutting it back short into a better position. And it didn't work every single time, but they were taking the smart choices and not just getting in, bombing in inside 50 and hoping. They were kicking it to our forward line players in really good positions and also leading the forwards into positions that were in their advantage. And you could just see the absolute skill of Maloney, Parry, Shelley Scott, Kate Sermon come to the forefront after those kicks inside 50. Like they were just unstoppable, especially Ashley Maloney. Like the way they were kicking into her was pretty spot on, and how you would want to go inside 50 every single game because it was, just perfect. And because of that, we're able to take up opportunities and kick 9 goals too, and just blow West Coast out of the water, as you said. 4 goals, nothing. The West Coast kicked 3 goals for at half time. And that's, if we missed 2 of those games, 2 of those goals, West Coast could have easily gotten to front and kicked more goals or had that confidence backing them into that second half. But because we took those opportunities from the better inside 50s and using it smarter inside 50 as well, just really set up the game really nicely. And then that third quarter, fourth quarter was even better. Like just absolute gold. Everything they did inside 50, basically, well, by the stats, half of everything that went inside 50 turned out in the score. So, yeah, it was perfect. You couldn't ask for a better game, really.
Yeah, 100%. And just thinking back too, like there was a time in the game where we went, oh shit, like Julia Crockett-Grills is out. I think she played what I'm trying to just find the stat. Was it 1% game time or something? Yeah, 1% time on ground. And Julia Crockett-Grills has been absolutely essential to our performances of late. So for her to miss was pretty massive. Sambo, we've talked about it a bit. And I know I keep coming back to you on it, but I guess that's why I keep coming back to you on it. Just defensively, like to only allow 8 scoring chances in the game, but to allow 1 point in the second half. Like, what did you see across that second half? The way Geelong clamped down, like where did you note maybe areas of improvement or difference in the performance on the weekend to what maybe we were seeing earlier in the season, where it was just so easy for the opponent to score?
Well, I think, I mean, the big one is the same thing that was different last week, which was just that composure and that team structure, and we just looked so relaxed. Everybody looked like they knew exactly who their player was, what space they were meant to be guarding, all that kind of stuff. That off ball stuff is so important, and that was something that I'd noted had been really strong for the last two weeks probably, and something that had been a little helter-skelter earlier in the season. This kind of like, we have really talented players back there, but everyone looked a little bit unsettled. Everyone was maybe looking, hesitant when they should be pushing, and then charging when they should have held back. Just that, split second decision making too, when you're not confident and you don't have faith in yourself, in the system, in each other. Those sorts of things can build up to those kinds of just errors of judgment that I think were piling up. And then we turned that around and continued that this week. But I think the other thing that worked really well this week was what I spoke about when you asked me about Kearns returning to the side, which was basically what I hoped was that we could continue the way we were doing it, the way we were defending that almost just slightly more standoffish approach to defending. I felt like we weren't pushing so hard at the ball. We were sticking with our players, but we were much better at reading it and not just feeling like we were trying to take the game away from them when it wasn't maybe there to be taken. And I was hoping we could continue that, and then Kearns would come in and not disrupt that, be able to work within that, but still bring her aggression. And I think that is what's key. That's why this defensive performance was probably the best yet, because we did all those things as a squad, as a backline. And then on top of that, you had Kearns doing what Kearns does, and attacking the ball. Like, I think sometimes when you got a player like that, other players can go, "Oh, that's really good. I should be doing that too." They can get sucked into not doing what they do well. But I feel like we were working well as a unit, but also everybody was able to bring individually what you want from them. So Claudia was doing what Claudia should do. Chantal Eamonson was doing what she does well. And then also Kearns was the one to really attack it, to push up deep, and attack it when it was there to be attacked. And she had, I think, game high intercept possessions. I think it was 10 off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And I thought she was really good. I thought her reading of the flight of it and her judgment was awesome. I think her disposal efficiency too was pretty high, like only 58%, but I think that's actually pretty good, considering the kinds of disposals she's often getting and the situations she's ending up in. So yeah, I think overall it worked really well the way it has been working. And then Kearns just kind of elevated it. She didn't change the setup. The setup was still operating the way it has been, and then she added her flavor on top of that.
The attack we were getting out of the 2 Irish defenders, I thought was really exciting. Like to have the speed, like it'd be enough to have one of them, but to have both Anna Rose Kennedy and Rachel Kearns, that drive and attack from the back line. There's a great I think, Kearns, her ability to join the attack. I wish she'd had that shot that she ended up trying to hand pass inboard to Aisling Maloney. But I think Anna Rose Kennedy, we're going to see her doing a lot more of that in future as well. Like, I think we're going to start to see Anna Rose Kennedy coming forward and kicking some goals. But just the drive out of defense that they offer is so big. And yeah, I thought Kern's reading of the ball, like you said, that the 10 intercept possessions was exceptional. And
could have had a goal.
We're kick the goal. Yeah, I know. I think it was lined up for her. Chaps,
would have
I
been a
know
great
we're on
goal.
an abbreviated time count tonight, so let's jump in and do our votes here. Sambo, start us off with your one vote. I have a feeling we're pretty similar this week, but if you give us your one, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
Johnny,
I'm operating off memory here, but I'm fairly certain that my one was Tanina Morrison from memory.
Correct.
Yeah, and I thought she was just incredibly solid. Like it's probably her turn. I was talking about Michaela Bowen last week. It's another turn for Morrison probably to be just expectedly brilliant. Like she could slide under the radar a bit when you got a certain other two performances that are that are floating around. But yeah, I think she's so consistent, and I think she's built this season to be even more consistent. Like I think she started the year like most of the squad, still sort of like it took them a little while to find their feet, but once she did find her feet, find her feet. It feels like she's like improved her fundamentals, like her just disposal and her marking, her handball, all that kind of stuff. But also her speed. I think like I don't know if it's bizarre to say if that just comes with confidence or what, but it just looks like she's really ahead of the pace. So that part of that could be the reading of the ball as opposed to actual leg speed. If you can read it quicker, you can get it quicker even than someone that's faster than you. But yeah, I just felt like she was just playing really well, but expectedly well for her, so she can sort of slide under the radar just by being really good. So I wanted to make sure I gave her a vote.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that. Johnny?
I was tossing up by one between a couple of players. I had one player in first, and then I've just changed it in the last 10 or so, 15 minutes, and I've decided to go with Amy McDonald. I was tossing up, should I give it to Amy or should I give it to Nina? And in the end, I just couldn't really. It was hard to look past Amy McDonald or the way she just came back into the side. She didn't have the massive disposal numbers, but what she was able to do with just 13 disposals was 6 clearances, second most in the team, 78% disposal efficiency, an absolutely ridiculous run around evasion in the forward 50, deep inside 50 around 3 West Coast players, and then to snap it while under pressure perfectly to Maloney. It was just, yeah, she's just an absolute freakish player. And yeah, I was thinking I had high hopes for her to come back in and get so many disposals and be hugely influential in the game. She didn't have the disposals, but she still had pretty big influence in this game off very little. So to have her back in is just enormous. 237 meters gained as well. So yeah, I couldn't look past Amy McDonald for my one. So Amy McDonald's getting my one vote. So good to have her back.
Yeah, agree. Well, my one vote's going in a different direction as well. I gave one to Michaela Bowen playing against her old side. 18 disposals, 3 marks, 5 tackles, a clearance, 271 meters gained, 1 goal assist, 1 goal herself. 100% time on ground, I thought was very impressive. And also a team high 94.4% disposal efficiency. I thought, yeah, Michaela Bowen probably up there with her best games of the season. Just very good, whether it's pressuring or using the ball.
One weird moment that I've never seen Michaela Bowen ever do. Just that one moment where she misjudged everything I've never seen Michaela Bowen misjudge the ball that poorly before.
So in the marking contest.
Yeah, in that marking contest. I was like, that's very unlike Michaela. I think it was
Johnny.
It was end of the second. I think it was the last goal they scored. It was just
okay.
I just feel like she just had one of those moments where she thought it was maybe a bit closer and just took out the West Coast player before the ball was near them.
In addition to his goal kicking school, John's also going to start up a marking academy in the off season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know everything. My marking is the best. No one's marking is better than mine.
The greatest marking. Michaela Bowen was also was probably the other option for my one vote. And my petty thing, if John's is that one, mine was basically just the tackle count. I can't ignore a good tackle count. So that's sometimes I reckon Bowen's got my nod because of the count. This time it was just Nina Morrison that pushed her into my votes. I think it was the game high tackle.
8 tackles, very nice.
I had Nina Morrison in my votes, and then I just kept going back to Amy McDonald. I think it was just those.
All right,
that kick really did seal it for me, I think.
Let's push forward with our 2 votes. We'll snake back the other way. I'm giving 2 votes to Georgie Prespakis. I have a feeling we've got a lot of very similar votes here. So I'm just going to say with Georgie Prespakis, her elusiveness is out of this world. Just absolute. I don't know. There's not many players that you can see in footy that evade and, wheel out of pressure as well and as easily as she does. And I stick by the theory that she was knocking a fair bit of rust off across the majority of the season. And the last couple of weeks we've seen her really, really take flight back to her old form. That's my 2 votes, Georgie.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. If there wasn't a certain other player that did something just a bit more ridiculous and inspiring, she would have gotten the 3. But she does. Yes, she's sticking with the 2 this week. But yeah, everything you said, Jake, is true. That she's just starting to find that absolute A grade level, and it's the season's most likely about to finish, and it's so frustrating that these teams, so many teams, are starting to play such good football, and the season's going to get cut short.
This is the thing, though. We got to fit. Got to finish. Got to finish your games at the start too, because there's 17 other teams that are dealing with the same abbreviated season, and they just locked up their points earlier.
They did.
Sambo, you got any thoughts to add on the Prespakis front, or do you want to take us to the 3 votes?
I don't want to dismiss her, but you guys have covered it pretty well. Brilliant performance, and I totally agree that that performance is getting 3 votes. But there was just you just couldn't look past Ashley Maloney. Like, just what an absolute superstar. I was going to say freak, but it's it feels mean at a certain point. That it's she's just an absolute legend. And I think I said to you guys during the game, and this is known as no disrespect to any other forwards that we've had putting in the work for us. We still have putting in the work for us. I think Jackie Parry is also a non-forward line target. But it's so exciting to have such a weapon. Like, that's what she feels like. There is, and it's just different roles that you fulfill even within the forward line. There's forward line players, there's goal kickers, there's all that kind of stuff. But Maloney's just an absolute weapon of mass destruction. That it's so exciting that we've got to this point with her so quickly too. Where the ball's up there, and where our delivery inside 50 has sharpened up a lot, so that helps too. But even if it's not the best delivery, you just know she's in chance of doing something, either just making something look ridiculously easy, like a really strong contested mark that she makes easy, or something that she makes look absolutely out of this world, and you just go, how did she physically pull that off? So it's just so exciting, from a Cats point of view, from a results point of view, but also just from the an entertainment point of view. Like it's it's so exciting to have these kinds of players in the league, and I love that we get one of those players now. That I think she's going to be, not very far from the front page for a few seasons.
Yeah, she's my 3 votes as well for those reasons. She's just an absolute ridiculous player, and to think we've got an absolute ridiculous player in the other team, and then we've got this absolute freakish, sensational, legendary player about to just tear an AFLW season to pieces if she hasn't already. She's, as you said, Sam, she's just a weapon, an absolute weapon inside that forward 50, and you can see the absolute. I'm trying to think of a good word that doesn't sound over the top, but just that self-belief is really starting to take over in herself and the team as well. That the favourite moment was when she kicked that goal and went up to the West Coast player and absolutely gave it to her. You can tell, that she knows she's good, and she knows she's going to be hard to beat, and she's absolutely loving it, and we're loving it as well as spectators, and so are the players. Absolute, she's just gonna, it's going to be ridiculous next season watching her go about her business, because she's just going to get better and better. And as we said it before the show, if there was a few more games, she'll be kicking 50 plus goals easily.
Yeah, there's like these games I thought you could easily see in Aisling Maloney's future very early on in her time in the AFLW. Like, she is becoming unguardable. Like, what do you do as a defender? She was out bodying her opponent at times. There's one that was just like classic. I've been playing footy all my life. Bodywork mark. I think it was in the final quarter against a very good opponent, and she just muscled her way into the advantage and took a great mark. Went back and slotted the goal. And then other times, she's like galloping around on a wing or onto a loose ball that someone's kicked over the top to her, and she's clean enough to gather off the deck at her height, and then she's got speed. So she is a massive, massive problem for AFLW backlines. Like, how you guard her, and once Shear comes back into the team, and the fact that Parry's down there, and the fact that Shelley Scott has been playing really good football. Like, there's some players there. I think Jackie Parry you can look at and go, and Shelley Scott. There's some really selfless contributors inside that forward 50 that also allow Aisling to roam and rove and do what she wants, which it makes sense. She's the most talented player in our forward 50, potentially the most talented player on the football field whenever she goes out there. But it takes other players to take those roles. The fact that Jackie Parry is such a dangerous threat in the air means they can't always commit, multiple playing resources to cover Aisling. So, but she was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, Johnny, she knows, I think now she's phenomenal. She's already broken the AFLW goal kicking record with 21 goals in a season. She's got to make, I really want to see her lock that up this weekend. She's 2 clear ahead of the next player. But she's absolutely incredible. And it's a privilege and a joy to watch her out there. And may it happen for, another 10 or 15 years down at the Cattery. That'd be what I'd like to see. So yeah, 3 votes for me as well. All right. That is it for our public part of the show. We are going to duck now over to Patreon. I'm just going to continue to gas bag about a few players, maybe take a quick look ahead to what the situation is going into Friday night. I don't think we've ever beaten the Crows. So it would be a lovely time to do that, regardless of what happens at other grounds around the weekend. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe or the follow button on whatever podcast or video app you're watching. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, Go Cats!
Go Cats!
Go Cats!